Now, the one thing I like about Gettysburg the most is there's a story for everybody here. Doesn't matter who you are. You can take something from this field and learn from it. You can connect to the personal human stories. You can connect to the battle if you want to. And in the many ways that you can connect to the stories out here, you can also explore it. If you're not the type of person to get out on the dirty trails and walk around in the hot summer sun or the wet spring or the blistering cold, there's plenty of roads, there's plenty of sidewalks and paths, and there's also plenty of museums. I think it's probably why so many people connect to these fields, because the storytelling out here is the best. It's better than any other field, any other battlefield that I've ever been to.
July 2nd, 1863, marks a dark chapter in American history, one of the bloodiest days of the Battle of Gettysburg. On this fateful day, the air was thick with the cries of battle, as over 100,000 soldiers clashed across the fields, leaving 20,000 of them killed, wounded, captured, or missing. Amongst the turmoil, a modest 19-acre wheat field owned by farmer George Rose would forever be etched in history as the Wheatfield. As the sun climbed high, the afternoon unfolded with relentless charges and countercharges. The landscape became a graveyard, littered with the bodies of over 4,000 fallen soldiers from both sides. Those who fought here later described it as a whirlpool, an unending surge of men rushing forward, then retreating, as if the very ground was alive, flowing with the blood of its warriors. The Wheatfield changed hands 6 times in one tumultuous afternoon, while the surrounding woods provided scant shelter for the Confederate forces as they sought to outmaneuver the Union troops. The ferocious fighting ignited around 4:30 p.m. when Brigadier General George Anderson led his Georgia Brigade out of the woods to the south. They clashed with Union forces under Brigadier General Régis de Trobriand, who had taken a defensive stance behind a stone wall at the southern end of the field. Though outnumbered, de Trobriand's men stood resolute for nearly an hour. But as the last rounds of ammunition were spent, they were forced to retreat across the Wheatfield, pursued eagerly by the Confederates. Yet, in a desperate twist, General David Birney ordered an immediate counterattack. The Union troops, fueled by a fierce determination, charged with bayonets drawn, momentarily halting the Confederate advance. But Anderson's men soon regrouped, and the battle continued to rage as fresh Union reinforcements arrived to bolster the dwindling forces. As chaos engulfed the southern Wheatfield, Union soldiers pushed into the woods to clash with Confederate units advancing from the Rose Farm. For an agonizing hour, Kershaw's brigade of South Carolina fought fiercely against Union troops on a rocky knoll at the west side of the field until they finally forced the defenders to withdraw. Then the renowned Irish Brigade entered the fray, rushing across the Wheatfield to push back the Confederates from the knoll. But Kershaw's men regrouped, bolstered by a Georgia Brigade under Brigadier General Paul Semmes. Semmes attempted to close ranks on Kershaw's right, only to be met by Colonel John Brooks' fresh Union Brigade, which drove them back to the orchards of the Rose Farm. The fighting turned desperate and personal, with hand-to-hand combat erupting as Colonel Harrison Jeffords of the 4th Michigan Infantry rushed to save his regiment's flag, only to be bayoneted. As the dust settled, the Wheatfield became a somber monument to the fallen, echoing with the groans of the wounded and the dying. George Rose's land had transformed into one of the bloodiest battlegrounds of the conflict.
So now we're out here on the Wheatfield, in the middle of it, and it's not a very large field at all. As de Trobriand's men were about to falter and fall back from the fighting that they had done, Zook, Cross, and Kelly come up just in the nick of time, and they make an immediate impact. But as they're over here on these fields, Zook is on his horse, and he's riding up behind his men, and he's hit. He falls from his horse. His men see him fall. They go to aid him, but it's already too late. Zook's mortally wounded. He becomes one of 4 generals out here to die at this battle. That's a pretty distinguished list. But nevertheless, his men fight bravely without him, and they do him justice out here in these fields. Zook, Cross, and Kelly's impact can't be overstated. Their men out here holding this position and keeping the Confederates from sweeping across this field and taking the flank at that moment in time when Mississippi comes up and crushes the peach orchard. Imagine this place falls. It's clear all the way around the side. The Confederates can then wheel again and turn towards the enemies that are fleeing at the peach orchard and sweep that field off in the direction of Cemetery Hill. That would have been a general's dream, but it wasn't to be, because in the position that we're at right now, this hard-fought ground, the many men that died here to keep it, they really saved the day. And they saved the battle over here at the Wheatfield, Devil's Den, and the Round Tops. Somehow that didn't make it into the motion picture.
By 5:30 p.m., Kershaw's troops were advancing on the Rose farmhouse, while Union forces at nearby Stony Hill received much-needed reinforcements. Despite Kershaw's relentless assaults, the Union regiment stood firm until a controversial decision by Barnes led to a withdrawal to a new position near Wheatfield Road, creating an opening for the Confederates to seize Stony Hill and push back into the Wheatfield. At around 6 p.m., Caldwell's division entered the fray, deploying 3 brigades. Zook and Kelly drove the Confederates from Stony Hill, while Cross cleared the Wheatfield, forcing Kershaw's men back into Rose Woods. But the tide turned again as Union positions crumbled in the peach orchard, allowing Confederate forces to advance down Wheatfield Road, enveloping Union troops in a devastating flank. Brooks' brigade retreated from Rose Woods, but Schweitzer's brigade sprang into action, facing the Confederate assault with fierce hand-to-hand combat. The Wheatfield's ownership once again shifted amidst the chaos of war. As fresh Union reinforcements advanced across the ominous Valley of Death, they faced punishing fire from Confederate sharpshooters in Devil's Den. The Confederate forces overwhelmed Stony Hill and Rose Woods, driving 2 newly arrived Union brigades back towards Little Round Top, where they suffered heavy losses, with 829 casualties out of their 2,613 troops. Around 7:30 p.m., the final Confederate assault surged through the Wheatfield, exhausted yet relentless. Anderson, Semmes, and Kershaw's brigades moved forward, but as they reached Little Round Top, they encountered a counterattack from the 3rd Division of the 5th Corps, led by Brigadier General Samuel W. Crawford. Colonel William McCandless's brigade charged bravely, pushing the weary Confederates back past the Wheatfield and reclaiming some measure of control. Realizing the danger of exposure, Crawford ordered a retreat to the Wheatfield's eastern edge, effectively ending further operations in this blood-soaked terrain. As the chaos subsided, the once vibrant Wheatfield fell into an unsettling stillness for the remainder of the battle. But the toll of that day's fighting was catastrophic. The Confederates had engaged 6 brigades, while the Union fielded 13 smaller ones, resulting in approximately 30% casualties among the 20,444 men involved. Wounded soldiers struggled to crawl to Plum Run, only to find the river stained with their blood. Like the infamous cornfield at Antietam, this small stretch of farmland became a symbol of sacrifice and loss, forever ingrained in the memories of the veterans who fought there. The Wheatfield, with its tragic history, remains a testament to the horrors of war, a reminder of the human cost borne on its fields. A quiet field in a small town stands alone with the memories of men that can no longer tell their stories. Many historians have tried to dissect this field and its confusing conflict. One thing has always remained: the actions on this field became a thing of nightmares. This was a place of glory, a place of defeat, and it surely was a place of pain and suffering. Private Jacob Henry Cole, 57th New York, detailed his wounding on July 2nd, 1863 during the fighting in the Wheatfield in his memoir, Under Five Commanders, or A Boy's Experience with the Army of the Potomac. This was his words about that day.
As we pushed forward, a bullet struck my right arm and passed through it. As we charged into the Wheatfield, a shell exploded and shattered my right leg and killed 2 of my comrades. When I was shot in the arm, the feeling was the same as though I had been struck on the elbow. A feeling of numbness came into the arm, and I turned to the comrade by my side and asked him why he had hit me. He said, "I did not hit you, but you have been shot, and you had better go to the rear." I laughed at him and said I was not hurt bad enough to do so. Shortly after, I was injured, as I have mentioned, by the shell. After my leg was shattered, I fell down, laying for a few minutes unconscious, and when I came to my senses, I was surrounded by the enemy.
Today, the Wheatfield is nothing more than a small patch of land with roads intersecting for visitors to drive and enjoy the many monuments that dot the landscape. Time has taken the history from those fields, but it has not moved the spirit. If you stand on that field and let your imagination free, you can still hear the echoes of history from those who no longer speak. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. You help keep our videos alive as we help keep history alive. Until next time, this is History with Waffles saying, go make your own history.